Okay, that brings me to Amy Spring. Amy, you want to come on camera, honey? I'm going to read your bio. There's Amy. Just give me a sec. I got to go into exit full screen. Amy Spring. We just met recently too. Amy Spring, Wise Transitions. Amy Spring. Is that the name of your company, Wise Transitions?
It is.
Excellent. A dedicated physical therapist with extensive healthcare management experience is the driving force behind Wise Transitions. With hands-on experience as a holistic view of the challenges faced by professionals, Amy is your personal advisor to help navigate the complexities of balancing career and supporting aging parents. Oh, where were you 10 years ago? Amy is committed to helping professionals manage the diverse aspects of their aging parents' lives, from financial and living arrangements to ensuring they have a sense of purpose. Her focus at Wise Transitions is on guiding professionals to make their sense of self while juggling career and family responsibilities. Oh, I totally went through this twice with both parents. I'm an only child, so it was just me and no one else to lean on. So thank you for that, Amy. And with that, I give you Amy Spring. What a great last name.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Marianne, for having me here today. And I do have a PowerPoint. I don't need to use it, but I could use it if, do you want me to share it or?
Whatever you like, honey. Let me
Okay.
make you a co-host and then you can do whatever you wish. I don't know why this isn't working. So
And does it still show my face if I?
It does.
Okay.
Well, you'll probably go in the corner.
Oh, okay.
Like
That's
I
okay.
am. Like, see how I'm in the corner? You'll probably end up there. So
That's okay. Okay, so let's see, play from current slide. All right, so are you seeing? Hopefully everybody's seeing this. So thank you everyone for having me here today. Thank you, Marianne, for asking me to speak. Something that I'm very passionate about, and that's the sandwich generation, those of us who are supporting an aging parent or an aging loved one while we're also navigating a career and family. So I always like to ask a few different questions first, just to start getting your mindset into this thought, because most people aren't thinking about this day to day. But do you want more time in your day? I know I do. Do you want to know what's best for your aging parent or loved one? And then do you want to save money when navigating the healthcare system? So that's really what we're going to be talking about today. I want you to imagine having a trusted advisor navigating the healthcare system. So the healthcare system is very complex. It doesn't really matter whether you're here in the United States, whether you're in Canada or in the UK, any other country. It's very complicated. And when you're in the middle of it, it can be difficult. I also want you to picture that your family's united and that you're prepared for making these decisions about your parents' care. So I really believe that no one needs to sacrifice their career, their family time, or their sense of self when supporting an aging parent. I also believe that when families and aging adults have a very strong support system, that they can make wise decisions. And I believe in a world where families are supported for their invaluable role and their dedication to their aging loved ones. So my name is Amy Spring. I'm a physical therapist by education. That's how I started in the healthcare world. And I'm also a previous leader in home care agencies, skilled nursing facilities, hospitals, care coordination organizations. And I speak across the country wherever I can speak about navigating the healthcare system, navigating the supporting an aging parent. So I help adults who are juggling those demanding roles, right? So you don't have to give up one for the other. So I feel very blessed. I have 7 children. I live in Rochester, New York with my husband, and we are empty nesters. Our children live across the United States. And here's a picture of my parents and my kids and my husband. And then also we have 3 fur babies. Archie is the big black goof, and Ruby Lou's the little black one, and Willow. So I now feel very grateful that I'm able to help those across the country and share my knowledge with others who are navigating this journey. But my story hasn't always been feeling so easy or happy. It did start back in many years ago, just like many of you. I have aging loved ones around me. And I grew up actually with a very large, extended elderly family because both my parents were born to older parents. Back when my parents were born, their parents were over 45, both of them, ironically. And that today, that's not unusual, but back then it was. And I was a newly divorced mom, and I found myself with 4 small children under the age of 7, and suddenly in the primary role of supporting my Aunt Jane. Now, while that doesn't seem so unusual in the story, sadly at that point, because I was divorced and a lot of other reasons I won't go into, I did find myself alone, supporting my Aunt Jane. And she was in Pennsylvania, about 4 hours away from me. And really what was the turning point for me and how I got to where I am today was the fact that I had made a decision not to take a managerial role, my very first actually, and my first leadership position. And it was because I had just been promoted in this managerial position, but also Jane had become ill. And in order for me to care for her, I needed to be able to drive and go see her and be there on one of the days through the week in order to take care of some of the things. And in order to do that, I needed to work 4 days a week. Unfortunately, they rescinded their offer. I needed to make that decision. And I also would travel back and forth every single week with my 4 small children. And I would take care of all the things, right? The house, the cats, the food, my Aunt Jane. We would go out and we would do some fun things. However, there was one day, and you'll have to forgive me if I get a little emotional because even though it was many years ago, it still pulls on me a little bit. But I had just gotten home from being in Pennsylvania, putting my kids to bed, and my phone rang. And I ran downstairs thinking maybe it was a girlfriend, and I was really looking forward to speaking with her. And because it had been a long week, and then I also had been just traveling to Pennsylvania, and it wasn't an easy role to be in. And then as soon as I picked up the phone, somebody on the other end was yelling and screaming at me. And I couldn't understand why I was having somebody at first who it was. And then I realized it was one of my Aunt Jane's friends. And she was yelling at me that I hadn't come to visit her, that I wasn't doing enough, that my Aunt Jane was crying and in pain, and that she felt alone. And I was in such disbelief, and I was shocked. I was hurt. I was angry. I was all the things because I really believed that I was doing everything I could to care for my Aunt Jane and raise my 4 small children at the time and still have my career and spend this money that I didn't have to help her feel as if she was supported and loved. But I was doing it all alone. And so it was in that moment that I realized that I wasn't doing a very good job. I was being told I wasn't doing a very good job, but I certainly felt as if I wasn't doing a very good job. And I didn't know what to do. But I made a decision in that moment that something needed to change. And what needed to change was that I needed to be better at communicating. I needed to be able to put a plan into place. And I needed to not do it all by myself. And so I made a dedicated decision to myself that I would find every way and any way possible to learn about the healthcare system, the families, and how to support other people who are in this role so that they never are alone again when they're doing this. So they don't have to do like I did and be alone and feel as if they're not valued in this position. So, and that's where I started with my business, is I just help people understand that it's important to have a plan. It's important to be able to effectively communicate, and it's also important to support, to have these supports in place. So the very first thing that I want to share is that it's important that you have a plan. Now, as I shared with you with my Aunt Jane, I I'm a very organized person, but in that situation, we forget, no matter who we are in our corporate world, no matter who we are in our day-to-day, typically, when we're put into a very quick role like caregiver or support person, sometimes we forget all those other life skills that we have, right? If we go on a trip, we typically plan. Or like I usually use this example, when you we all go to the dentist. Hopefully, we all go to the dentist, and you go to the dentist to be proactive, right? You don't like to have a root canal. You don't want a cavity. You don't want to spend the money on those types of things. And so we go to the dentist because we don't want to spend the money on that. Well, it's very much similar of going to the dentist. You go because you want to prevent. So where to start on your journey? You really need a plan. And it's critical for saving money, for safety reasons, to have a plan, because you can be proactive, and it also helps you reduce stress. So one of my clients who had come to me, her name is Jennifer, and she had both her aging parents. Actually, her mom had fallen, and her aging father suddenly had a heart attack within days of her mother falling. And she was a nurse. Jennifer was a nurse. But like I said, often our day-to-day, our work skills, our day-to-day life skills, we completely forget this. And so when they were thrown into this role, they just didn't know how to plan or how to prioritize. And so it was very important for us to say, okay, what's the priority right now, so that mom can come home and dad can be taken care of, and that you can continue your job. And that's what we did. We put together this plan so that she didn't lose her job, because unfortunately, as they were getting older, she was taking a lot of time off, and she was at risk for being written up. And when we put this plan together, she didn't feel as if she needed to keep taking time off for her aging parents, but her parents felt supported, and her parents were well cared for. Okay, so the second thing that I like to talk about really is communication. So navigating difficult conversations, this one is so critical. A lot of people are like, well, yeah, we talk all the time, or no, I don't really want to have that conversation, but I do have a conversation. I see my mom, or I call my mom, and that type of thing. But I want you to imagine your relationship with your parents or your aging loved one, kind of like a road trip, right? You're going along the road, you're driving along, and everything seems smooth, and next thing you know, you hit a pothole. So how do you navigate that? You're like, oh, darn, that hurt. I hope I didn't pop a tire. Right? And you're a little bit more aware when you're on that journey, hopefully, of any other of those potholes. But also you might come up onto a very sharp curve. So you're driving along, and maybe you're driving 65, 70 miles an hour, and suddenly comes this sharp curve, and you have to slow down. And so caring for an aging loved one or a sick loved one is very much like that. Driving this road that you're not quite sure exactly, maybe you've never driven it before, and you're just not sure when the curve is going to come up, when you have to slow down, when a pothole is going to come up. And how to navigate that is to really be able to prepare, like we talked about before, but also be able to have those conversations. So when talking with your aging parents or loved ones, it's important that we ask open-ended questions. It could be something like, tell me how you're feeling. It's not, are you feeling sad or are you depressed? It's, tell me what you did today. So I want to share with you, this is about me personally, but one time my dad was away helping my brother, and I called my mom and I said to mom, what'd you have for dinner? And she said, I had a banana. Now I know that sounds really funny. It sounded funny to me too, because my mom always likes to eat a warm meal. But I said, a banana? Why are you eating a banana? Now my mom is diabetic, right? And what I realized is that it actually opened up the question, because I honestly could have just called and said, hey, mom, did you have dinner? And she would have said yes, because she wouldn't have told me the whole truth, because honestly, there's a little truth in that, right? She had a banana, so that was, she considered her dinner. But what I found by asking the question, what did you have for dinner? And she actually honestly told me it was a banana. I was like, what's going on? You know, why'd you only have a banana? What about, you know, the meatloaf and everything else that, you know, we thought you were going to have when dad wasn't there? And she's like, well, I'm not really feeling very well. And so with that conversation, then I immediately was able to go over. Now I'm able to go over because I don't live very far away. But what I found is that her blood sugar was low and she wasn't feeling very good. Now, if I hadn't have asked that question open-endedly, I wouldn't have known. And so it's really important that you ask these open-ended questions, because your loved ones, what I find time and time and time again, is that they don't want to pull on you. Your parents think you're busy. Your aging loved one thinks that you're, you know, they don't want you to think that they're not doing well, because they're worried about what the next step is. You're going to think that they're not capable. You're going to think that they need help. You're going to think that they can't live alone. You're going to think whatever it is you think. And so they're starting to protect themselves by not giving you the whole story. And so it's really very critical that you understand how to have these crucial conversations, and sometimes go in the back door. So when I had told you about my Aunt Jane and how I had that phone call from her friend who was yelling at me, what I did in that moment was very simple. I decided in that moment that I was going to prove to them that I was there. I was going to prove to them of everything that I was doing. And so I went to, I think it was Walmart, and I bought this dollar journal, this dollar 3-ring binder, whatever it was, this paper pad. And I also bought a Polaroid camera and some film. And the next time that I went, I wrote down, you know, it's Friday, whatever date it was, we're here. I took a picture of her and the kids and the little dog that I brought our dog with us. And I taped it to the piece of paper. And I said, you know, we went out to Dairy Queen and we had an ice cream, and I'll be back. I have to pick up cat food and whatever. So what that did, now, honestly, I'll be completely transparent here. It was all about my ego at that moment, right? So the her friend calling me, I was hurt, I was sad, I was angry. And I was like, how dare you tell me I'm not doing enough? How dare you tell me that I'm not there? And so I was going to prove that I was there. And so my solution of finding a piece of, you know, a pad of paper and a Polaroid camera to prove actually turned into this beautiful communication method where I taped that picture of me being there, and then I was going to go get cat food, and that we were going to be back on such and such date. One of her friends called me and said, hey, I'm going to be driving by Jane's place, and I have to go to the store anyways. I'll pick up cat food. And so they bought cat food, and I didn't have to worry about that. And then the staff in the facility loved the Polaroid camera idea that they started taking pictures because, you know, I had shared with them that she was sad, that she was there, that she felt isolated and alone, and that not enough people were coming to visit. So they started coming in and taking pictures and putting them in the book. And so it turned into this big thing where actually they asked me to come in and teach a class on this communication journal type of thing. And honestly, the final thing that really was beautiful about it is that I now have a memory book. It's not the most beautiful of, you know, like photo albums or anything like that, because like I said, it was just $1 type of pad of paper, spiral paper. But it's my memory book because the doctor would write in it or her friends would write in it and pictures were in there. And so being that the whole entire now facility had that as a class, everybody was doing it. And it taught me that not only was I not communicating, I thought I was communicating well, but you know what? I wasn't communicating effectively. I might have, yes, been communicating, but it wasn't in a manner that other people could help me, could see what was going on, and also could support Jane in that. And so it turned a negative into a positive. And I'm very happy about that. And so that really leads into my third piece, and that's don't do it alone. I think it's important that you establish support. So many of us have a really hard time with asking for help. We think that as soon as we're tasked with there's a certain hill we need to overcome or a certain task that needs to be done, that if we say that we need help with it, it shows that we're weak. It demonstrates that we're not capable. And honestly, that's furthest from the truth. When we ask, people want to help. People want to help. If I say I need help with this, multiple people will raise their hands. And they not one time do they think that I'm weak or that I'm not capable or that I'm lazy and that I'm not able to do it. They want to help. And so, you know, it's according to a survey of the National Alliance for Caregivers and AARP, 64% of caregivers who have a support system in place reported that it helped them manage their responsibilities more effectively, which meant they didn't have to step out of their jobs, which meant that they didn't have to give up their vacation, which meant that didn't feel as um, they didn't feel as much resentment, right? Because they had that support. So it's really important that people don't do it alone. But how do you do it when you do feel alone? Because typically my clients come to me and they're like, oh, I have a sister, I have multiple sisters, or I have brothers, or, you know, I've got a whole big family, but everybody thinks I'm doing so great that they're all going on their vacation or what have you. And no, everybody says, ask for help. But then when you do ask, they're like, oh, well, I've got a meeting or what have you. It's important that you realize that there's a lot of different manners of support. It's not just about your family, but let me tell you, there are definitely methods to supporting you. Now, I did tell you a little bit about my one client, Jennifer, and I will tap into that just for another quick story. So when she came to me, she had a sister who lived literally a few miles down the road from her parents. Now, Jennifer lived in another state. But Jennifer was point because she was the quote nurse. And so they kept pulling on her, and her sister, even though she was not very far from her parents, kept saying, well, but you know how to do this so much better. And so every time a sister was asked to do something, she didn't know how to do it. And so we put together this plan, and I was able to effectively pull her in gently where she made the choices of what to do and what not to do and how to support. And next thing you know, that relationship was so much better. They weren't bickering all the time and kind of blaming who was doing what and who wasn't doing what. And it was nice to see that. It really does strengthen your relationships, because the last thing your aging parents want is for their kids to be fighting while they're sick. So there are 3 pillars to support. There's support groups, which looks very different for every single person. And that support group could be an actual group, like a virtual group online. It could be it could be a group in person. It might be a church group. It might just be the neighbor next door. Support looks very different for every single person. And it's important that you, as the point person, have support, somebody to talk to. There's also professional supports. Of course, that's like the doctors and the home care agencies and the specialists and financial advisor, legal assistance. And then there's community supports. That could be a dog walker. That could be a food service. That could be a volunteer from the church. There's a lot of community supports and people are not aware of that. So I had a client out in California, and when she came to me while we were putting together her piece, she was a only child. One of the biggest challenges and what kept her up at night was the fact that she felt her father was isolated when he was in his rehab. And so I said, well, what does he like to do? And he was a very proud Scottish man. He loved his Scottish history. And I said, okay, great. Let's reach out. I'm sure there must be a Scottish association in the area. And so that's what we did. We reached out to the Scottish Association. And do you know that they all descended upon him in the assisted living rehab? And they had lunch with him and they brought in these special foods and they were playing their pipes and everything else. And so he didn't feel so alone. And he didn't feel so like somebody's just put me here, even though he was only going to be there for a short period of time. He felt as if his life was still continuing. He felt as if he still had purpose. And it's so empowering. So it really does take a village. You know how they say with kids, it takes a village? Well, it takes a village too when you're in this journey of supporting an aging loved one. So it could be, again, like a support group. It could be volunteers. It could be resources just so that you have some respite. There are respites out there, right? There's churches out, there's family, there's neighbors. There's always somebody who's willing to support. I know it's hard to ask for help, but that's also what I do. I also help you ask for that support and let's figure out the plan so that you can be in that moment. So I just want to, I know we're coming up, I can talk and talk and talk and talk, but I just want to do a recap here. So it's important that you have a plan, that you're prepared. Many people want to kick this down the road. They don't want to have a conversation, but you don't have to kick it down the road. It can be very simple of just pulling out pictures and talking with mom and dad about different things. And lo and behold, you pull out a picture and it's of grandma, right? And then you could just say, oh, I remember when grandma was in the hospital for whatever. And how did you do that when you were driving back and forth? I mean, it can happen organically. Also, understanding how to effectively communicate is so important. It's not just about communicating with your mom and dad. It's also communicating with your siblings. It's also communicating with the doctors and the emergency room staff and the skilled nursing facility, right? The rehab. It's very important, not only for that relationship, but to save money. And then establish support. Don't do alone. So that's really what I'd like to share with you today. I'd love to, talk with anyone that's going through this journey or thinks they're going to be going through that journey in the future. No matter where you are in the stage of supporting an aging parent, whether they're doing great and you think you're not ready yet, let me tell you, let me help you, because you will need to have some preparation so you can avoid the tornado. And if you're in the middle of it, I also can help you with that. And if you're at the end of life, there's various things to make things easier for you. So thank you, Marianne, for letting me come on and talk about my passion. It's such a piece of me that I interweave into what I do every day. I've always been drawn to the aging population. Even in college, I lived with an 82-year-old woman. I mean, I think back in my life to how the universe sends me these these seniors and these situations. And I never recognized it until I got a little bit older. But yes, I used to live with an 82-year-old woman, and she was my roomie. And she used to make me meals, and I would help her and she would help me. And she used to walk to church every day, 1.5 miles. God love her. She lived to be like 100. And she would walk every day to church. And she had a sharp tongue. She kept me on my toes. But that's why I always say she lived to be 100, because she was feisty. And we used to have very deep conversations in her baby doll pajamas, as I was kind of trying to help convince her that I had to study. But she had lots of words of wisdom for me, and she really helped me get through college. So I've always been very grateful for her. Mrs. Higgins, I'm sure you're looking down on me. And she was so appalled that when I had my boyfriend over, I would serve him a canned vegetable. Just the things that she our seniors, they have so much wisdom, and they have so many stories, and they have so much to share. And I'm just always so grateful to hear them and to experience them, and to be allowed to be part of their journey and to hear it. And so with Father's Day coming up, in a couple days, actually today's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, in a few days, I just invite all of you just to make a memory. Do something like make a special dish or a special cookie that you had, or ask your parents if they're still here. Like, ask them to make one of those. They'd love it. If I was to call my dad and say, "Hey Dad, can you make your coleslaw?" Like, we have a family tradition of special coleslaw. He would love it. And he has a whole story around it. Um, and so, pull out those memories, make a memory, and let them know that they're important to you.
I love that coleslaw. Can you stop sharing, honey?
Yeah.
Thank you. Ah, perfect. Thank you so much for that, Amy. That was amazing. As you know, we've spoken about this numerous times. Both of my parents ended up in nursing homes, and so there was a lot I had to do around both of them, because with my mom first, my dad didn't really know what was going on, so he needed a lot of help. There was, like in Canada here, we have different systems, I'm sure, than what you guys have in the States. And yeah, it was an ordeal, that's for sure. I wish I had had some guidance at that time, and now I'm able to help a bunch of my friends too, because they're all like, "Oh my God, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. How do I do this? What do I do? What's involved? How does this work? How much does it cost?" Like, yeah.
Right. There's all the things, right?
Gosh, oh my gosh, so much.
Yeah.
Food, this, clothing, just the clothing that needs to be different.
Yeah.
Nursing home, okay, just that alone, which I had no idea. None of my parents, I mean, my mother never wore, what do you call it, truck pants
Mm.
and pajama bottoms. Like, that just wasn't her vibe. But that's pretty much the only thing they'll take up there, because there's diapers involved. There's all kinds of different things. Things need to be easy to pull on and off, and typically a size bigger or
Yeah.
two. Sometimes it just depends. And then sometimes they lose weight. Like, my mom lost 40 pounds before we figured out that she really wasn't eating her lunches and whatnot anyways. So same kind of thing. I mean, different things. Oh God, yeah, all kinds of different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for that. That was super important. Thank you so much for coming on here to speak. And
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
thank you, and have a great rest of your day.